Hi, it's Alison from the Bar Exam Toolbox. Today, we're talking about studying during the holidays. Well, we made it to the holiday season. For a lot of people, that means joy, good food, family, friends. However, for those studying for the bar exam, the holiday season can also bring a lot of stress as you try to manage studying and your other commitments. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can make this bar study a little more manageable during the holiday season, because it's definitely a little bit of a challenge. All right, Lee, kick us off.
Yeah, so the first thing is something we talk about no matter what season it is, holiday or not, which is let's make a schedule. Let's do it. Let's write it all down. So if you have not done so, you need to sit down with your Google Calendar. You can print out paper calendars, but you need to put your study schedule in there and map out the holiday period in advance. That means put in blocks of studying, put in all your family commitments, travel days, events, you name it. If you're going to be doing it during that holiday period, I think you need to write it down so you can really make thoughtful decisions about where your time is going.
I think that's so true. I mean, we're recording this in mid-November, and I sat down today and did some math on somebody who was going to start studying soon. And already it was like, okay, well, that's like 25 to 35 hours a week already. So, that's a lot. Yeah. And you want to make sure you have those times for the deeper work so that you're not just squeezing in an hour like after you go do something. But I think the main takeaway is like setting everything up on your calendar just helps eliminate like that time wasting and that decision fatigue. And you want to remove that feeling of like, should I be studying right now? And really just be able to focus on your studying when you're studying and focus on other things when you're not. I mean, I think that's really the end goal here, And if you're going to be with family or friends, you can think about when is kind of that dead time where maybe you could fit in an hour or 2 or 3. Like, is it in the morning? If you get up early, everybody's going to go do something fun later in the day. Like, you don't want to miss the fun activities, but you do have to kind of plan around them.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you mentioned that's so critical is you need some blocks for deep work. So you need a few hours. If you do all of the scheduling and only find, that you can do multiple choice questions over lunch for 2 weeks, that is not going to cut it. So you need to look for those blocks. They're just so incredibly important.
Yeah. And, you may have to miss the occasional activity, and that's fine. Like, you have a lot going on. We're going to talk in a second about some boundaries that you might need to set. But I do think, hopefully if anyone's listening to this and they're planning on studying in the holiday season for the February bar, you have sat down and like done the math and figured out like, okay, if I'm going to work backwards from 400 hours or 500 hours, what does that look like? If not, I would suggest doing that right now. Because I was already kind of surprised it was as many hours a week as it was with 14 weeks.
Yeah, it's so true. All right. Well, once you've set up that beautiful schedule, then it's time to set some boundaries.
Maybe a few challenging conversations that need to happen.
Yes. So it is best to think ahead to these challenging conversations and even to script them out. I know that sounds really silly and maybe over planning, but it's so much better to think about what you're going to say before you're in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
So, also you could email or text family, especially if you're not sure that you want their immediate reaction. There are some passive ways to communicate with family that we have all implored at different times and implemented in our own family units. But scripting out something simple like, I'm so excited to see everyone, but I need to be clear that I will be studying for X number of hours on these days. It's not it's not about not wanting to be with you. It's about showing up for myself as I study for this test. And really, most family members or friends or people who love you will understand that this is an important goal. So I do think, though, that just being really clear with that communication helps set yourself up for success.
Right. And maybe some people won't understand, which can be frustrating, but most people will. If anything, I think some people might be pushing too hard the other way, as we'll probably be speaking about in a minute. But, people get this is a really big undertaking and you are going to need to carve out time for it. You might also consider just getting out of the house, find a local library or coffee shop where you can just remove yourself from whatever craziness is going on, get some space, study. And again, like I said, if you can go and do some work in a few hour block out of the house and then come back, then it's great. You can take time off. We're not telling you that you have to study like 10 hours a day on Christmas Day. I don't think that's
No.
necessary or even advisable.
No, not at all. And I've got to say, I'm really digging the library these days. Can we just take a moment and shout out to our community libraries? You and I have been
Yeah.
using the library for research projects. My kids love to go to the library. I see people studying for the bar in the library all the time when I'm around, bopping around my community. But they really are amazing. And they're basically in every single town.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, there's a library and they may not be open on, the holiday days, but they're not going to be closed for weeks,
Right.
probably around the holiday season. I think they're an underutilized study option, and some of them are quite pretty. So I don't know. I think that if you're traveling to meet family, and even if it's a place that you're not used to going, check out these free library options, which might be a really good landing spot for you.
I agree. I'm totally down with the library. I look back and I'm like, why did I like stop going to the library for so long? Yeah, because when I first started the Girls Guide to Law School, I went and did like a literature review in the library. And I remember like I know where the stacks are that have all those books. But then I kind of dropped off and now it's like, oh, this is great. I'll go to my local library. They can like deliver books to me. It's a nice space. Yeah, I think absolutely. I definitely see people studying for the bar at my local coffee shop too. So I just try to steer clear.
Just send good vibes,
Yeah.
just
Like, good luck to you. I'm not
exactly.
gonna speak with you.
Exactly. So it's also important to give yourself permission to take real time off, not just to say you're going to take time off, but take real time off. So you have to push back on the every moment I must be productive mindset, which is hard because it feels like that's what's required to study for the bar. And yes, as you were mentioning, it takes a lot of hours, but it takes dedicated hours. And so you need to realize that you can schedule actual time off, not like guilty, I'm sort of taking time off, but I feel like I should be studying. You want real breaks and time where you can be present, because then it counts as rest and relaxation, which is also important when you're studying for the bar. So I think this is really something that's downplayed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's this mindset of like, you have to be doing 12-hour days, 7 days a week, or you're going to fail the bar. That's not true. It's also not even productive time. Like, I would rather, particularly over the holidays, have somebody commit, like really commit to studying 4 hours in a day for like a week. That's fine.
Right.
But then take the rest of that time off and like enjoy what you're doing. Like, this is time you're not going to get back. These are people you may not see very often. You may be really into like holiday activities. Everybody has their thing. But really do that focused work and then stop and then go enjoy your life. I mean, like the bar exam will still be there.
Yeah. And you going out to dinner with your family is not going to be the reason why you failed the bar.
No.
I mean, it's really
No.
not. And I know it can feel that way in the moment, and I'm not trying to belittle anyone who's had that feeling, but it's not. We talk to people who fail the bar all the time, and it is definitely not, celebrated this wedding anniversary or party
Or like
this
I
weekend or
went to
something
my
like that.
friend's birthday. Like, no. I mean, yeah, if you take off like half the study time, sure, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, recognizing a special occasion, getting some focused time in, and then going on and enjoying your day. I mean, I always say people tend to actually fail more for the other reason, that they're so burned out and they're not focusing and they're just kind of checking boxes to like fill the time. I think at least that's more common.
Yeah. So by taking real time off, we mean close the laptop, put it away in your room, maybe even turn off your phone.
Leave
Really
it at
get
home.
away. Leave it at home,
Revolutionary.
revolutionary. It's really okay to unplug and just be present. Play some games, read a book, just do something that's different. And that's going to help you be refreshed after the holiday season to go into January, which is really crunch time. So that's another way to think about this, is the time that you're taking off is really hopefully like charging your battery. So January becomes a very productive month.
Right, because you don't want to roll into the first week of January like totally exhausted and having a really stressed out holiday season because you tried to do too much studying.
Yeah. All right, so we've set boundaries with family members, but here's where it gets fun because you oftentimes have to talk to those family members. And sometimes they will say things that do not make you feel amazing. And they may not be intentionally doing this, but it does happen. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about managing questions from your relatives.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, like, how do you handle, Allison, the ever present, like, oh, how's the studying going? Are you ready for the bar? Are you going to be ready? Maybe now it's like, I saw Kim Kardashian failed the bar. Are you super upset about that?
So I think you can probably anticipate these questions and you can have some canned answers ready to go. I think this is a great place for that kind of gray rock technique of, it's going well. Thanks for asking. How have you been? That's a deflection.
Yes.
Most people actually just want to talk about themselves. So if you can just employ that, oh yeah, good, good. How are you guys? Did you take that trip? Tell me about that. You don't want to talk about it. I mean, I think you can also be a little more straightforward with some people. Like, honestly, like some days I feel okay. Some days I'm terrified. It's pretty normal. You know, I'm trying to trust the process, put in the work. It'll all be enough. I mean, I would employ that with people that you actually think will be empathetic. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, I think the deflection technique is just, you know, you need that in your back pocket.
You do. And really having these phrases is just so, I don't know, it's so freeing because you're not in the moment, like frozen, anxious about what you're going to say. Just decide what you're willing to share and then be done with it. It's really, you know, and then you can always have something else to talk about if you want to just shift the conversation. You know, people love to talk about themselves. So deflecting to get them to engage is great. And then talk about something else going on in your life. You know, talk about your dog, talk about something else. Just find something else to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you kind of know like who your difficult relatives are likely to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there are multiple people there, you can deflect and then leave the conversation if it doesn't stop as well. Like, oh,
true.
I really need to go do this other thing right now.
Yeah. I need to help
we'll
somebody
chat.
in the kitchen.
Yeah. I need to grab something. We'll chat later. Let's catch up on that.
Catch up. Yeah. And I think this is really challenging for those who are studying after a failure because, you know, you might be seeing family for the first time since you got this disappointing news. Almost everyone probably knew you were sitting for the bar. They may or may not have heard that you have failed. And so you definitely want to think about answers if you're in this situation, especially if it comes like, oh, you did so well in law school. Like, what happened?
You're so smart.
You're so smart. I didn't know
How
that
did
many
you
people
fail?
failed. Yeah, how did you fail?
I didn't know smart people failed the bar.
Yeah, I know. So it's good to have some prepared responses. You know, just very simply, you can say like, I'm okay. I'm back at it. I'd really rather focus on the future than rehash what happened in the past. You know, I think that's another just like, I'm not here for this conversation. Like, you know, and then again, deflect and say like, what's going on with you? I'd love to live vicariously through you about what's going on.
Right.
You know, just
How are the kids?
or the kids, how are, you know, and then, or you could, you know, say it was disappointing, but I'm in a better headspace now. And I figured out what I need to do differently. I'm just focused on February. You can get a little more vulnerable and say, honestly, it sucked and it still kind of sucks, but I'm working through it. And I just need to believe that I can do this a second time. So, you know, I think these are all fine options. Of course, just say whatever makes sense to you. But the idea is to just have a response. So you're not like stumbling or getting very emotional and you're trying not to cry. I mean, like, which is totally legit. It's just, is that, you know, there may be people that you want to cry with about this, you know, a bar failure, and that's totally okay. But not every, you know, aunt and uncle may be that person. So you just have to have
great Aunt Mildred is probably like sees you once every 6 years, is probably not a person to cry to, but you know, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah. I think another tough one is this idea of like, what happened? You know, the shock and awe, and like blame it on the bar. You can say like the bar exam is unpredictable. Lots of really smart people don't pass. I'm not interested in doing a post-mortem right now, but I'm handling it and I have a plan for next time. You know, again, just having your statement. Most people are not going to ask a ton of follow-up questions to something like that.
Well, the one option or one exception there might be if you have attorney, like people in your family who might then tell you all about how they prepared for the bar and what they did and what they think you should do. And again, that's like, like, you know, thanks for that. Take it under consideration. Got to go get another snack.
Yeah, that's true. So you don't owe anyone an explanation. You really don't
Right.
have to talk about this if you don't want to. So, that's also really important to remember, especially when even as adults, sometimes our family can still make us feel like teenagers. So,
Sure. Yeah, I think just having your script ready to go, knowing who you don't want to go into detail with, and then having the out of just like, yeah, I'm gonna go over here.
yeah.
Like maybe don't go for coffee with your, crotchety like attorney uncle that you know is gonna like drive you insane.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing to think about is that a lot of people may ask how they can help. Maybe they won't ask questions that make you uncomfortable. Maybe they might say, like, I'm so sorry, like, how can I help? And you want to have an answer because, one, almost everyone needs help and can take some sort of support. And if you don't tell them how they can be helpful, sometimes they may go rogue and do things that are not helpful. So it's also good to have in your pocket what would be helpful. So some options are, if they're local, you can say, like, frozen dinners would be a huge help, or gift certificates to DoorDash or Amazon gift certificates. If you have a dog, it can be like, do you think you could walk my dog, or could my dog come stay with you sometimes so I can get kind of a break in longer study periods? It could be babysitting if you have kids, running errands. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that folks can do to help support you. So just think about what would be helpful and have that answer as well. And who knows, you may actually get some help that you are excited about,
Right.
that you wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't thought about ways that people could be supportive.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I mean, I do think most people, even if it's misguidedly, are trying to help.
Yeah.
It's just if you can redirect them to something that's actually helpful, great. Everyone will be happy because they'll get to help and you'll actually feel like you're being supported versus just interrogated and told what to do, which no one really likes.
No. So once you've survived all of that, you have had all the hard conversations, you have found the study time, hopefully you've eaten good food. You also need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself because, I don't know, you and I are on a lot of the same mailing lists. I don't know if you got the mailing list this morning from your local epidemiologist who said that the flu season may be a doozy this year, which I always worry about our bar takers because getting the flu and getting sick and losing a week or so of study is really hard, especially in these winter months. So it is important to recognize that it is flu season and cold season and sniffle season. If I was flying and I was studying for the bar, I might consider wearing a mask. You could decide what you're comfortable with. But you also need to sleep and eat well and make sure that you're still moving your body and doing all of the things that you need to do to protect yourself as much as you can. Because, man, getting knocked down for a week or 10 days during bar season is rough.
Yeah, for sure. I did get that email. I haven't read it.
Okay, well,
but
there's the
thanks for
punchline.
summary.
You don't have to now.
Yeah, I feel like the headline just basically gave it away. It's going to be a bad
Yeah.
flu season. So yeah, I mean, I might think about like, am I fully vaccinated against the flu and COVID? Maybe that's something I want to think about. Because I do think, obviously, like getting laid up for a week with some horrible illness is not going to help the situation like at all.
Yeah.
So, this might also be a time where you maybe can catch up on some extra sleep, like you can do some yoga or something relaxing, like really use this, like you said, to set yourself up for that final push in January and February.
Yeah. Ooh, I tell you, the winter is it's tricky, man.
It's just so dark. It's already so dark. And I'm like, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, oh, we're not even like a month. We still have another month to go to the solstice. Like,
Yeah.
it's like going to just keep getting darker and darker
It's
for
gonna
like
get really
another
dark.
5 or 6 weeks.
I know. I had to buy another lamp for my office because I haven't been in this space since the time change. And I'm like, oh no, it's going to be dark at 5. I don't go home at 5.
Right.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. So get that, get the blue light, not the blue light, whatever the ones for like seasonal affective
Yes,
disorder, like the
yeah.
light thing. Those are apparently great. So if you are in a dark climate, that might also be something to consider just to keep your spirits up.
Yeah. And oh man, let's go into this last piece, but this really piggybacks on what we were just been talking about is you've got to avoid comparing your life to others. And when you're talking about taking care of yourself, we just got to say it. Just put down the social media and Reddit. It is not going to help. If you are taking time off, you could go onto these sites and go in the downward spiral of watching how everyone else is saying that they're studying or they're not seeing their family for Christmas. They're going to do all of these other things. And just don't, just please don't.
No, although I will say on that note, I think if you, for whatever reason, want to spend the holiday season studying away from your family, that is also another valid
Oh,
option.
fair point.
100% should consider. And just again, if people don't like it, they don't like it. It's just what you need to do right now. And therefore, it's what you're going to do.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Yeah. I mean, you do you, my
Right.
friends.
I mean, I think if
Yes.
somebody wants to be like, you know what, I actually just want to take the whole week that I'm off work and like really focus on the bar, and that seems okay to me, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on things that I would otherwise like to be doing, you go for it. You do
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think that whatever choices you make, you just need to be really intentional about it. If you're going to spend your week studying, then spend your week studying.
Right.
Don't, not go spend time with family and then go to the movies the whole time.
Right. Or sit
you
around being
know,
like pissy that you have to study. It's like, okay, you made the choice that you were going to do this. So
yeah.
use
Or
the time
lonely.
wisely. Right.
Yeah. Lonely, sad, all of those things. Like if it's a conscious choice, make the most of it. But I've over the years heard of so many folks who feel that they have missed major milestones and then failed the bar. And it really stings in a different way because they'll say things like, well, I didn't go to such and such. So it's
Right.
like I should have been entitled to pass. And life just doesn't work that
Right.
way.
Like I skipped my best friend's wedding. It's like, well, probably could have gone to that.
Yeah. But, I think, even in law school, I remember I missed one of my really good friends' bachelorette weekends because it was during finals, but I tried to make it to this other thing. And I just, of course I made it to the wedding, but it was one of those things where you're like, well, I can't have everything. So I'm going to
Right.
pick and choose what are the most important things. And of course, my friend understood that I was working on my own goals. It was like final exams. It's not
Yeah.
like I could just say like, whatever finals, I got to go out and party with my friends. But you just need to be intentional. And sometimes you can't have it all.
Right.
But if you make thoughtful choices, then at least you can be present and enjoy whatever choice you've made. And I
Yeah.
think that if you get nothing else from this podcast, just be thoughtful about it and plan ahead so you don't feel kind of tossed around by the holidays.
Yeah, I think it's a case of decide when you're going to study and commit to that time and do your absolute best to stay focused. And then when you're not studying, commit to not studying. Like when it gets this like messy middle of everything kind of blurring together and you're not really studying, you're not really taking time off. That's just not great. Like it doesn't work well.
No. Well, it's not easy to do all of these things at once, but life's not easy. So it's good practice for juggling all the rest of the commitments for the rest of your life. I'm
True.
just the ghost of Christmas future here, sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could all tell some stories about our law firm experiences around various holidays and things. So
Oh, yeah. But it has been quite a year, I think, as we wrap up 2025 and leading into the first bar season of 2026. We should acknowledge that it's going to be a year of a new bar exam, which is
it's
kind
going to
of
be
crazy.
interesting. Yeah, it's
I
like the
know.
year of bar exam future.
It is. So, whatever exam that you are studying for, just remember that life is still happening when you're studying and find some joy in there somewhere, whether you are spending it with family and friends or delightfully, quietly by yourself. That all sounds really lovely too.
Exactly. And good luck to everyone studying. And yeah, we'll be back in the new year to talk to you again.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to future episodes so you don't miss anything.
You can check us out at barexamtoolbox.com.